perfect, but at least it's got some discussion of my bio, my personal bio, and the sort of the typical autism person that I am. I'm a high-end autistic with about 6 years of diagnosis and a lot of therapy, and just recently diagnosed. And so now I talked also a little bit about my mission in life for autistics, and I've talked about the life goals that every person has. And I've mentioned that the neurotypical and all of the problems that neurotypicals have, the autistics, or Aspies as they're sometimes called, have 100 times as hard. Yet the neurotypicals, or the autistics, are often the brightest, very brightest people, and they can be pigeonholed to the side or not allowed as much life opportunity. It's even more true today than it was 100 years ago, and it's true all over the world, not just in the United States. And the best places for autistics are the British Empire, because they mainstream in their schools and there's no resistance. Between an Asperger and an autistic is often the difference in a formal sense, that the autistic is considered over the radar and the Asperger's is under the radar. So that's sort of the background to which we're going to launch to continue on with the new version of the 15-minute video, which is going to highlight the individual life goals more specifically. So the autistic and everybody else have individual life goals, and the autistic is, at least me, and I think pretty much all autistics, pay much more attention, and what they are focused on, they do really, really well. So one of the typical life goals, and it has to be for everybody, is the health and health insurance goals. And so one of the big areas of searching and researching since the last 5 years has been WebMD. And so I recommend that for anybody to research and to help on any medical question to get you started. Don't believe everything that you read in WebMD. Oh boy, physicians are not always right, and it's really important to recognize that for seniors, they have individual issues, and they're much more particular and much more specific with the way their bodies interact. And so there's been, in addition to the pharmaceutical push for drugs and the problems with elimination that occur through the kidney and liver systems, and the drug interactions and all of those other things, the human body is very, very individualistic. So recognizing that means the individual has to keep very detailed and good records if he wants to be, or she wants to be, able to live longer and live more fully. That is something the autistic is very, very good at if he chooses to make that his goals. The insurance, of course, is really being driven all over the board by some of the policies for payments on medical insurance by seniors. It's going to have to be solved because they're going to have to be cared for. Seniors will be cared for. The medical profession will help care, families will help care, the individuals will have to learn themselves what their best care is, and so it's going to be solved. It just may be very messy, and very many millions of people may have to die early or have less than full lives because of the way things are going. So one of the things about insurance is long-term care, and long-term care was institutionalized, but now it's being driven more for home health care, and companies like Home Care, Angela's company, and Visiting Angels are national companies that offer very, very good services, and I recommend that everybody take 1 day of service, do the paperwork, take 1 day of service from the company, then back away from it if you don't have enough funds. But if and when you need the service, you can get it for within 24 hours, and you can have people coming in to do all sorts of, every sort of activity: walking the dog, washing clothes, changing the beds, even, as Angela's doing, helping me with video. Okay. Urgent care centers are something that can be used, but they do have, some of them have physicians, not all of them, and it's very important to be able to get drugs, because over-the-counters are, most of the drugs that we use are, as seniors, are going to be prescription, and we aren't going to have as much fun as was true before when we were young and we thought drugs were, pharmaceuticals were a fun thing, but not so true anymore. Daycare centers are terrible for seniors because they have all kinds of infections. So a lot of seniors have to be particularly careful. That's all kinds of seniors. Have to be terribly careful of infection rates, particularly for daycare centers and primary school kids. In fact, that's one of the things that causes people to try and home care their children so they don't get into situations like that. Exercise is part of important part of every senior's activity to strengthen, and when the ultimate sickness comes, you'll get down and much better, much faster. Oh, and guess what? Diet, like Mediterranean diets, are helpful, but fruits and nuts essentially, and vegetables. But portion control is a bad word that everybody has to live with. So you want to keep it, generally speaking, between 2,000 and 2,500. Veggies and are critical. I love veggies, but most people don't. And keeping your own records is absolutely critical. And finally, although this is that most autistics are boys or men, there are autistic women, about 1 in 10 or so, and it's really hard for them because they just simply don't talk to their doctors. And because of that, they don't get as good care. And even more importantly, their heart problems are worse, different and worse. They don't have as many symptoms as males do. Tax and financial issues, that underpins everything. As somebody has said in the past, well, I've been rich and unhappy and poor and unhappy. Well, I guess I'd rather be rich and unhappy. So autistics can be, and usually, well, I don't know if they usually are, but they can be very good at investing, wealth accumulation, and they understand very, very strongly the importance of the happiness curve. And I call the happiness curve to be the difference between expenses and income. And what that means is you can be making $1 million a year, but if you're spending over $1 million, it's not good, and usually aren't happy. And in fact, doctors are particularly prone to that. With respect to anybody, if you want to become a prodigious accumulator of wealth, what you do is you don't ever spend any money. You don't have any sort of way that you spend a lot of money. And it's surprising how psychological that is, because you and your wife, your relationship, by being together on that, you can save huge amounts of money because you just put it in the bank or any place investing before, and you pay that first. Then you pay whatever you want to later on everything else that you have left. But pretend that money never gets you. And what are the three worst investments in life? Women, kids, cars, and there are of course others that are special to whatever, but those are the worst investments because they're such huge amounts of money. Once you fail at budgeting, and once you fail, budgeting is about, actually you probably list less than half your expenses. Even though you have one-time monthly expenses, you've got to double that because you do spend that much money for other things during the year. And the kids have a problem in birth order, meaning the oldest kids get the best amounts of money for school, the other clothes, and mostly college costs, I think, in terms of that. The younger gets absolutely nothing because there's no money left. And that's not fair. I don't know, lots of things aren't fair in life, but it's something that the parents can control and should. There are a lot of things parents control and shouldn't, but however that goes. Anyway, that's very, very important. Small business owners understand some of these things better than people who have fixed incomes, because a small business owner has a good year and a bad year. And if he's smart, he figures out that the bad year is probably coming again, but the good years are not something that he can count on. So he should never spend more money than what he spends in the bad year. If he can help it, he should spend and save against the bad years. So it's a little easier in some ways for that kind of person to make it.